Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Brooke Logan Forrester had always taken great pride in being her family's defender in the glamorous but ruthless world of Los Angeles fashion, where empires rose and fell with the turn of a hemline and hearts broke faster than a rejected design concept. She was the unwavering optimist who believed in destiny, second chances, and most importantly, the unbreakable relationship between a mother and her children. Her pride and happiness had always been her son RJ Forrester, the golden kid born of her loving relationship with Ridge Forrester. RJ was meant to be different from his half-brother Thomas, who had once almost destroyed the Forrester family due to his dark obsessions. RJ was supposed to be gifted, laid back, and free from the darkness that afflicted the Forrester lineage. However, as the days at Forrester Creations passed, a subtle change started to take place that Brooke was unintentionally encouraging, leading her cherished son down a path that was uncannily similar to the exact monster she had struggled so hard to contain. As these things frequently happen in the soap opera tale of love, treachery, and ambition, it began innocently enough. Eager to establish himself in the family business, RJ had come to Los Angeles with renewed vigor. He was a young guy determined to establish himself as a designer and a true Forrester, no longer the carefree influencer who had formerly wowed people on the internet. His gaze had fallen on Elektra, a lively newcomer to their group whose ties to the Spencer family and the fashion industry excited him. Every time Elektra was around, Brooke saw her son light up, and she felt memories of her own early romantic relationships, the kind that blazed brightly and devoured everything in their path. She had put a hand on his shoulder and said, "Follow your heart, RJ," one afternoon in the Forrester showroom. Her voice was warm and encouraging. With the greatest of intentions, those comments sowed a seed. Don't let anyone or anything stand in the way of what you truly want. Life is too short for regrets. RJ took them personally because he had always prioritized his mother's praise. In a household where legacies were significant, he started to view Elektra not only as a possible love interest, but also as the secret to his happiness and the one thing that would define his identity. Initially, it took the form of tiny gestures, such as extended chats, considerate actions like bringing her coffee during lengthy design meetings, and nuanced ways he positioned himself as her ally in the cutthroat business of fashion. Elektra was lured into the orbit of RJ's intensifying rivalry because she was torn between her own complex relationships, especially with Will Spencer, whose rivalry with RJ was intensifying. At home, tensions were simmering. Katie, Brooke's sister, had taken decisions involving family secrets and conflicting allegiances that threatened to reveal long-standing grievances, decisions that horrified Brooke. Brooke intensified her support for RJ amid these familial difficulties. Brooke listened sympathetically as he confided in her about his annoyance with Will, who appeared to be intruding on what RJ considered to be his turf with Elektra. "You've always been the better man, sweetheart," she reassured him. She failed to notice the flare of possessiveness in RJ's eyes and the way his jaw tightened at the mention of Will. "Will is Bill's son. Charming, but unpredictable. You're Ridge's legacy, my legacy. If Elektra is who your heart wants, then fight for her. Show her what real devotion looks like." This was pure, unadulterated passion to Brooke, the same fire that had propelled her through innumerable setbacks and victories. Brooke had no idea that what she was saying was setting a risky precedent. Thomas Forrester had become obsessed with Hope Logan, Brooke's daughter, years prior. What had started out as infatuation had turned into something darker: scheming, manipulation, and a refusal to set limits that almost ended lives. Brooke had been Thomas's harshest critic, denouncing his actions, calling on Ridge to step in, and promising never to allow such poisoning to affect her family ever again. The late-night visits, the staged accidents, the relentless pursuit that disregarded Hope's obvious rejections. She had seen the warning signs. Family ultimatums, therapy, and forced interventions were all a result of Thomas's behavior. It appeared like history was about to repeat itself, but from a surprising source: her own son. Initially, RJ's actions became more aggressive. He began to gently undermine Will's efforts in the design room by insisting on spending more time with Electra on collaborative projects. Brooke jumped to RJ's rescue when Will and RJ got into a violent altercation one scorching afternoon, with punches flying over claims of sabotage and missed opportunities. Later that night, in their opulent home with a view of the city lights, she told Ridge, "He's just passionate." Ridge, ever the ambivalent father, arched an eyebrow but trusted Brooke's judgment. RJ isn't like Thomas. He's not calculating, he's emotional. Let him work through this. Encouraging him to pursue what he wants will make him stronger. After all, during their tumultuous relationship, she had been correct about a lot of things. However, the fissures were getting bigger. RJ started confiding in unusual allies, like Ivy, whose own plans fueled the flames. As the guardian of Electra's schedule at Forrester Creations, he began giving Will subliminal instructions to avoid her. Feeling under strain, Electra addressed him one evening in the company's dimly lit lounge area. "RJ, I like spending time with you, but it's getting intense. I need space to figure things out." RJ spoke calmly, but the tempest inside was visible in his eyes. "I just want what's best for you, Electra. Will isn't stable. He doesn't understand you like I do. My mom sees it too. She says I should follow my heart, and my heart is with you." He depicted a future in which their love story became the stuff of Forrester legend, and their designs dominated the runway. Torn between the charm and the underlying control, Electra paused. Unaware of the entire scope, Brooke carried on with her delicate orchestration. She directed the topic toward RJ's possibilities during a family meal that included Ridge, Steffi, and even a cautious Hope. "He's growing into such a strong man," she remarked, passing the wine with a dazzling smile. Hope, who had taken the brunt of Thomas's fixation, shifted uneasily in her seat and said, "Reminds me of you, Ridge, when we first met. All that drive and passion." She had seen the similarities in the way RJ observed Electra, the justifications he offered for his behavior, and the way he reframed boundaries as challenges to be conquered. Later, Hope pulled Brooke aside and whispered, "Mom, be careful." Thomas started the same way, convincing everyone, including himself, that it was love. "RJ looks at Electra the way Thomas looked at me. Don't encourage something that could turn dark." Brooke dismissed the worry with her usual optimism. "Oh, honey, RJ is nothing like Thomas. Thomas had issues, deep ones from his childhood, from the way things unfolded with us. RJ has a stable foundation. He's my baby, the one good thing that came from all the chaos. Supporting him means believing in him, not clipping his wings." In her mind, she was fostering her son's self-assurance in a society that had frequently favored his more combative siblings. She thought back to her own struggles, managing the Logan Forrester feuds, defending Ridge against Taylor, and weathering scandals that would have shattered weaker women. If she had learned anything, it was that regret followed hesitation. Her motto had been to push forward, claim what you desire. The situation grew more dire as the week went on. As she struggled with her emotions and faced threats from people around her, Electra found herself in a precarious situation. With his mother's support, RJ took more daring actions. Together with Ivy, he devised a strategy to exclude Will from a significant project under the pretext of protecting the company's vision. As word of the plan leaked, rumors began to circulate across Forrester Creations. Steffi dragged RJ into her office, always defending the family name. RJ vehemently defended himself, saying, "This isn't you, RJ.
What's gotten into you?"
Demanding will be fired? That's not professional. It's personal." A feedback loop had been established by Brooke's support. "Electra deserves better. I'm not obsessed, I'm committed. Mom understands. She told me to go after what I want." Every time RJ talked about his successes or setbacks, she gave him encouragement. She would say, "That's my boy," and give him a strong hug. In the quiet times by herself, Brooke thought about her past. Don't let jealousy or competition dim your light. Thomas let his demons win. But you have heart. Use it. She was unaware of how her words cleansed his behavior, turning control into caring and possessiveness into devotion. She had forgiven a great deal in her life, including her own rash choices and Ridge's betrayals. Why doesn't she show RJ the same consideration? At a young age, he was learning the ins and outs of both business and love. After all, the fashion industry rewarded the daring. But among those who recalled Thomas's reign of emotional horror, the parallels became more pronounced. Thomas had once created mishaps to destroy competitors, abducted Hope in a perverse attempt to keep her close, and refused to accept no. Professional assistance, family interventions, and eventually a breaking point that changed him, or at least seemed to, had all been necessary for his obsession. Now, there were similar undertones to RJ's obsession with Elektra, the incapacity to tolerate her divided attention, the covert alliances, and the physical altercations that left both bodies and egos bruised. Watching the long-running drama from living rooms all throughout the world, fans started making wild guesses. Was Brooke perpetuating the cycle she had previously denounced out of blind maternal love? One crucial afternoon, Brooke and RJ were sitting on the luxurious couch going over design concepts while the rain pattered against the Forrester mansion's windows. RJ's voice became tense as Elektra's name was mentioned. With sympathetic eyes, Brooke leaned in and said, "She keeps pulling away, Mom. Well, won't back off. I told him to stay away, but he doesn't listen. What if I lose her?" She gripped his hand and said, "Then show her why you're the one, RJ. Be persistent, but genuine. Love isn't passive. It's a fight worth winning. I fought for your father time and again, and look where we are." She didn't realize that her comparison made it difficult to distinguish between a good goal and something worse. Ridge's brow furrowed as he heard bits and pieces of the conversation coming from the doorway. He had a tangled past with fixation of his own. Decades of drama had been shaped by the constant back and forth between Brooke and Taylor. Later that evening, as they were getting ready for bed with the city glistening under them, he remarked, "Brooke, are we sure we're doing right by the kid? Thomas's path nearly cost us everything. If RJ is heading that way, even a little..." Brooke turned to him with a determined gaze. "Ridge, our son is not Thomas. Thomas was broken by our choices, by the push and pull. RJ has us both now, united. My support is what he needs to thrive, not doubt. If I pull back, he'll think I don't believe in him. That's how monsters are truly created, by abandonment, not encouragement." Brooke, on the other hand, ignored it. She was decreasing the obstacles that may have stopped RJ's decline by portraying every action as motivated by passion. Sensing the change, Elektra started to distance herself more, sharing her discomfort with friends. "He's sweet one minute, but the next, it's like he owns the idea of us," she confided in a close friend. Hope heard about it and confronted her mother once more. "Mom, open your eyes. RJ is demanding, controlling conversations, isolating her from Will. Sound familiar? You hated it when Thomas did it to me. Why is it okay now because it's your son?" Brooke's argument was strong. Because RJ isn't manipulating with lies or props or hidden agendas. He's honest about his feelings. Thomas hid behind excuses. RJ wears his heart on his sleeve. However, as she watched RJ storm out following yet another argument with Will, his face determined, a tiny doubt started to creep in. She trailed him to the balcony, where the aroma of jasmine wafted in the cool evening breeze. RJ turned, his eyes reflecting the fire she had commended. "Sweetheart, is everything all right? You seem intense lately." Brooke saw a peek of the monster she might be building as she remarked, "I'm just doing what you said, Mom. Following my heart. Elektra is everything. I can't let her slip away like so many things have in this family." A young man whose sense of entitlement to love was being fostered by unconditional maternal approbation rather than a perfect replica of Thomas. Forrester left behind a legacy of genius and beauty as well as unbridled emotions that resulted in breathtaking falls. It appeared that time and distance had redeemed Thomas. Is it possible to stop RJ before he requires the same? The drama at Forrester Creations escalated as the days stretched into weeks. With RJ and Elektra scheduled to work together on a line that may start their careers, a significant fashion preview is imminent. RJ persisted, proposing modifications that prioritized their partnership at the expense of others. With her own motivations entangled in ambition and retaliation, Ivy's involvement added layers of intrigue. Bruised but unflinching, Will refused to back down, sparking another altercation that caught the attention of the fashion elite. While in a strategy meeting, Brooke heard brief excerpts that caused her to pause. RJ's turning into a problem. He's not listening to reason. If this continues, it could affect the company's reputation. The last thing we need after all the Thomas fallout. Brooke spoke in a firm voice as Steffi voiced her concerns. She said, "My son is passionate about his work and his feelings. Let's not exaggerate. Encouraging talent is what Forrester is about." However, when she saw Electra's tense countenance across the room, even her own words seemed empty. With a wine glass in hand, Brooke roamed the living room that night by herself, lost in her thoughts. The day Thomas's fixation reached its climax, the interventions and the tears came flooding back. Back then, she had promised to keep her kids safe from such suffering. Was she now the mastermind behind such agony? Her phone buzzed with RJ's texts, asking for additional guidance and providing updates on his progress with Electra. Her finger lingered over the send button longer than usual, but she responded with hearts and encouragement. "You're the only one who gets it, Mom." The way ahead was difficult. RJ could, in fact, become the next chapter in the family's compulsive mythology if Brooke carried on as she was, a daring, lovely catastrophe of her own creation. Alternatively, she could be able to guide him back by identifying the warning signs and showing him that genuine love honored boundaries rather than overran them. However, Brooke Logan Forrester had based her life on never giving up on a struggle, especially one for her children's happiness, and change demanded acceptance. Ultimately, the question lingered like an incomplete design. Had Brooke built a monster with her intense love and unwavering support? Had RJ been driven farther down Thomas's compulsive path by her comments, which were intended to empower? As the Forrester family teetered on the brink of yet another emotional abyss, the fashion industry watched with bated breath and flashing cameras. Love in Los Angeles was never easy, and for Brooke, the price of her support might end up being greater than she had anticipated, putting not only her son's future to the test, but also the very pillars of the family she had worked so hard to keep together. Brooke had no idea that a single emotional choice may lead to something much more sinister. What had started out as a protective impulse for her family gradually turned into an uncontrollable chain reaction. In an attempt to maintain harmony between Ridge, Thomas, and the rest of the broken family, Brooke opted for deceit over truth because she thought she could influence events without causing harm to anyone. However, secrets tend to acquire fangs. Amidst the turmoil, RJ began to see things that others had missed. He witnessed Brooke's discreet manipulation of talks, her subtle pushes, and her apparent preference for some truths over others. He dismissed it as worry at first, but the more he investigated, the more he saw that his mother was manipulating events in the background. Not only did that insight disappoint him, but it also transformed him. Thomas, who was already balancing redemption and relapse, saw an opening. RJ's mounting annoyance and perplexity reflected the darkness Thomas had previously struggled with. Rather than cautioning him, Thomas started feeding it, gently pushing RJ to question everyone and everything. What had begun as advice swiftly evolved into influence, which then became hazardous. RJ discovered that he was adopting a perspective he never would have imagined, and preoccupation with control developed from the drive to reveal lies. He began rationalizing dubious behavior by persuading himself that the goals would outweigh the methods. Ignorant of the tempest she had created, Brooke persisted in attempting to fix things, not realizing that her meddling was driving RJ farther down a path from which he would find it difficult to escape. Relationships start to break under pressure as tensions increase. Rich feels that something is wrong, but he is unable to identify the exact cause. As RJ gets closer to losing his identity, Brooke becomes more and more eager to preserve her version of tranquility. Thomas, too, knowing how precarious RJ's mental state has become, he observes everything with a mixture of curiosity and satisfaction. The true question is whether Brooke produced something she can no longer halt, not if she committed a mistake. One thing also becomes evident as RJ continues to walk in Thomas's shadow. The story is far from finished, and the repercussions are only now starting to materialize, leaving viewers to wonder who will break first.